Morning. It's Wednesday morning about 9 o'clock. And I waited this long to do this video to give people a chance to get their drafts into the drive. That's gotten a little problematic. The things that are there are really very good, but there's not a lot. Let me share my screen this morning. Oops, this is the wrong thing, but that's okay. I'll get you there. Maybe. Okay. So here's the drive, and this is all that I have this morning. I've left comments on all of these, so be sure to get your drafts up here so I can comment on them in the next day or so, because the revised draft is due next Wednesday. Okay. One thing that I've noticed is not so much with these, but um, is often an issue when you're writing a story. It just happens when you're doing the first draft of a narrative of a story, which is what a personal essay is. And remember, we've talked about this is a genre, personal essays. Is that once you get into the story, you just start writing and you just kind of keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. And it becomes, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. It becomes uh my computer's having a nervous breakdown. It stops. You don't think about paragraphs, right? The story just kind of all rolls out like it's supposed to. That's how we think about it. But when you go back and read it, or when somebody else tries to read it, it's all one paragraph, and sometimes it's a page long and it's kind of hard to read. So what we have to do is think about paragraphs, right? Now, one thing to think about with a personal essay paragraphs, you probably were taught somewhere at some point that all paragraphs have to have 5 sentences, a topic sentence, 3 supporting sentences, and the conclusion. Personal essays don't work that way, and most work doesn't work that way anyway, but personal essays certainly don't. You can have a 1 or 2 sentence paragraph. What you can't have is something that's this long, because it's very off-putting for the for the person who's trying to read it. So I got a couple of tricks. One is forget the five sentence paragraph. That's one of them. And the second one is, I'm going to share my screen again, is something that I teach my screenwriting students. Um, I can get my thing back up here. Thank you very much. There we go. And that's thinking this is film script. This is a film script. I can't even make the figure. In fact, this is the beginning of the movie Inside Out. Now, in screenplay writing, we work in scenes just like we do in personal essays. Okay, so this is the beginning, and each of these has a name. This thing is called a scene heading or a slug line. There's one. This is a shot. Just this is what we're going to look for. And here's another slug line or scene heading. Here's another slug line or scene heading. The way we decide how you go from one scene to another and put it on the page is if you change location or you change time. Okay. And it works really well for fiction and personal essays and things as well as screenplays. So with this one, we start in the headquarters, and then we go to the kitchen, right? And then we go back to the headquarters. So the time is pretty much consistent, but we've gone from one location to another location back to the location. Now, if it were on one, if a bunch of people were sitting around a table, you may do another scene hitting or slug line when you go from one person to another. If it changed from interior headquarters and then the kitchen the next day, that's obviously a new scene. So when you think about your own essays, and you're doing this long paragraph, a lot of times I'll see people say, and from that moment on, or after that, or I followed her into the hall or something like that. That's obviously a good place to think about putting a paragraph, right? Because you've changed location, you've changed time. So when you go back and start revising your essays or doing your edits, think about, have I changed location? Have I changed time? And think about whether that would make a good paragraph. Okay, so that's really about the only thing that I wanted to talk about there. The other thing is sentences. This also happens when you're doing first drafts, is that the sentences will just They just go on and on and on and on because you don't even think about punctuation. Here's a trick that I learned. If you read something slowly out loud and you listen to your voice as you're reading, if your voice goes down or you stop, that probably means there's a period there. If your voice goes up or you just kind of pause, you go, it's probably a comma. Doesn't always work, but it's a really good start. Okay. Um, so those are the two things to think about when you're doing revisions that I see happen to everybody. The long paragraphs and the needing periods. I'm going to sneeze. I hope not. Um, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Um, go ahead and put comments on people's pieces, especially if they happen to be in your breakout room group. But if not, that's fine. Just leave some comments. I'm going to be continuing to leave comments as things roll in. And again, it's due on Brightspace. Let me share again. Share. And we're going to go back to, it's got this drop down thing that comes up. There we go. Going back here. So it's due here. Okay, so just go scroll down here, get into, let me do this, course home, content. There are two ways to do it. You can scroll down here and leave it there. The computer's very slow today. Or you could just go over to assessments and add it that way. I'm still on instructor screen, so it's hard for me to go toggle back and forth. So this is the easiest way to do it. Just do it here. Now, remember, you can upload, upload things and add a comment if you want to. I'm perfectly happy to look at comments, right? So let me look at the because sometimes they'll tell me, you got stuck or, you just need something. And remember that these revised drafts, you can revise them again all through the term till we get to the end of the term for grades going up. Okay, so this is not a final grade. All right, so for next week, just, after you've done some feedback for people, go onto this Padlet and tell us how you're feeling about leaving feedback for people. Respond to the comments. And then I have another Padlet on here. After you've looked at the comments, my comments, everybody else's, put on there what your plan is for doing the revision. Okay, just a couple of sentences about, about what's going on. Let me see if I can find one from last week from my other class. I can't, they're all done. They've done with theirs. Okay. But that's what you need to do, is just to put your plans, just drop them on here. Okay. What's your plan for revising your essay? All right. So that, again, that gives me some, I'll look at that as we go through. So I'll have an idea of what's up for you. Okay. So that's it. That's the assignment. And then the final draft again is due next Wednesday. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting, this was a suggestion from somebody from the other class, putting the assignments and things, announcements on Slack in the general, the main channel, the general channel. So it'll be there as well as here on Brightspace. So that, I think, is all I wanted to talk about. And we finally get to see each other again next week. So I will see you next week. DM me, email me, whatever. Okay. Good luck. Great stuff so far. I've cried. I've gotten angry. You're doing a good job. Remember one other thing. When you're doing descriptions or you're writing about this event that had an impact on you, remember you don't want to, here's the event. Okay. You don't want to describe it to us from the top down. So it's like we're out here somewhere. You want to put us inside the scene. Wrap us in there. Okay. So not from the top, from the inside. So think about people, how you felt, what you see, smells, sounds, dialogue, everything. Okay. So be sure to pump those up and make those stories something that we are a part of and not just watching. All right. So that said, finally, I'm done and I will see you next week. Let me know if you have questions.